Alright, hey, it's Mr. Maker. We are going to be doing one of the flipped classroom exercises again. For those of you who were not able to do it last time, doing a flipped classroom exercise allows me to give you a presentation that you have the opportunity to control the pace of. If I'm going too fast, you can pause the video or rewind it. If I'm going too slow, you can fast forward to the next part if I'm pausing too long, or you can just mute me if you don't want to hear me or anything like that. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want you to set up your paper in a Cornell Notes style. I'd like you to title it Forms of Government. And if you're not sure what Cornell Notes are, this is kind of what they should look like. The top should have your name, date, class period, a title right up here. You should have keywords, ideas, and notes on this right-hand side. On the bottom, you summarize your notes, and right here you're going to change this blank part into key questions when you're all finished with that. That way it's nice and organized for when you're done. If you need to pause to set up your paper, this would be a good time to do that. But we're going to move on anyway. Hopefully you had an opportunity to set that up, so we're going to get started right away. Government matters as a whole because people form governments in order to do certain things like establish order, meaning control the chaos, provide security and give protection, and accomplish common goals. Your first four functions and most important functions of government are to keep order, provide security, provide services, and guide the community. However you need to set it up in your Cornell Notes, I would like to make sure that you copy down this chart directly into your notes so you have a copy of this chart yourself. Next, we're going to go to the different levels of government. The United States has a federal system of government. That means that the government power is divided between the federal and the state governments. The federal or national government is the highest level of authority. And if you guys remember from earlier in the year, federal or national means the entire country. So that's the United States government. State or local governments cannot pass a law that go against the laws of the federal government. That would be kind of like having your little brother tell you to do something that goes against what your mom or dad decided to do. The federal government would be like your mom and dad and in the highest form of authority, and your little brother or sister would be on the lower level. Local governments such as cities and towns are the closest governments to a citizen. They are under the control of the federal government, but they do have an opportunity to do a lot of things like help out with local issues that the federal government and the national legislatures may not even know about. So they're really important as well. As a whole, I want you to copy down these as well. Your federal government makes laws for a nation, makes rules for citizenship and how to become a citizen of the United States, and makes sure that they're in charge of things like foreign policy, which is how we interact with other countries, elections, and the military. The state government makes laws for the state, sets up local government, and makes sure that they control the education and public health for an area. Your local government is going to run counties, cities, and towns, provide schools, police, fire departments, and other local health and necessary organizations. And they're also going to provide road maintenance, snow removal if you live in one of those cold states, trash collection, and other services. In Florida, something that would be considered a local government issue would be preparing certain areas for hurricanes. Forms of government. Democracy is one of the more important ones, and as you can see by Barack Obama up here in the corner, is the one that we currently have. Government by the people, a form of government in which supreme power is vested in the people and exercised directly by them through elected officials. The basic idea behind democracy is you elect people who are in charge, and you elect them by voting. There are two main kinds that you have to focus on, however. There's direct democracy and representative democracy. Direct democracy was invented in ancient Greece over 2,500 years ago, and citizens would meet in one area and discuss government matters. It worked for smaller populations because each person had an equal vote on every single issue. Kind of like in a classroom if you had every student vote on whether you wanted to have classes use pencils or pens. Every single student would vote on every single issue, and that would be an example of one issue. A completely different kind of democracy is representative democracy, where citizens choose a group of people to represent them, make laws, and govern on their behalf. This is an example of the kind of government the United States has. People who vote are not necessarily voting for every single issue. They're voting for people that will go to Congress or even the president, and those people will make decisions. The two kinds of representative democracies that we need to focus on are republics and constitutional monarchies. In republics, citizens have the choice to elect who will head their government, and in a constitutional monarchy, a hereditary, meaning born one after another, ruler such as a king or queen have limited power due to a constitution. That can get a little bit confusing because it is also kind of a monarchy, but we'll talk about that later. Socialism is a type of government where the government itself owns many of the larger industries. They focus on a lot of the issues that will affect everybody, such as education, healthcare, and welfare services, while allowing citizens some choices economically, meaning having to do with their businesses or money. Wealth is redistributed in a socialist climate so that everyone in society is given a somewhat equal share of the benefits, but people can earn more if they work harder. The means of production are controlled by the workers themselves, and in this kind of government, you have freedom of religion usually. In communism, it's kind of similar to socialism, but in communism, all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and needs. No leader, directly or indirectly, is going to be chosen by the people, and this has never actually been practiced. It's kind of a in theory thing. In this sort of government, the overall institution of religion is abolished. So as a whole, communism is something where everybody owns everything and everyone shares equally. So if I have cows and I'm a farmer, and you have hay or beans and you're a farmer, you might give all of your beans to the government, I might give all of my milk to the government, and the government divides up individual pieces for everybody in the whole entire country, not just a trade between the two of us. Guess that video is not going to work, but that's okay. Monarchy is a form of government that has a king, queen, emperor, or empress. In a monarchy, the ruling position can be passed down to the ruler's heirs, meaning if a father is a king, later on after he passes away, his son will be king. Or if he does not have a son, it would go to his daughter and she would be queen. In some traditional monarchies, the monarch has absolute power, meaning no one can stop their control. Anything they say becomes law. But a constitutional monarchy, like in the United Kingdom, which is England, it also has a democratic government that limits the monarch's control. In a constitutional monarchy, a monarch like a king is given a more ceremonial role, meaning that they can be in charge of ceremonies and that sort of thing, but they still have an elected government called parliament. In an oligarchy, a government is ran by few people, like a dominant group or few people. Maybe 5, 6, 7 people are in charge of all the decisions. In an autocracy, you're having a government where the country is ruled by a single leader. The leader has not been elected and may use force to keep control. This is a system of government with absolute power going to one person. You're often going to find in an autocracy different parts, like you may have heard the word dictator before, where they rule with violence or fear. That is a very common thing that you will find in an autocratic government. Some examples include Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Benito Mussolini, or Saddam Hussein, as you see in order right beneath. I guess we're having issues with the videos, but that's okay. And that's it. Those are the forms of government. If you need to go back and check out any of the other ones, please feel free to do so, because I know I went kind of fast, and there are a lot of bits of information built in within there. You should, by the time you're all done, have a set of Cornell notes separating all the different forms of government. If you have any questions, please post them on the Edmodo page as a reply to this post.